Good, recording? Okay. Hello and welcome. My name is Wendy Blum and I'm the Executive Director of Lowell Telemedia Center, or LTC. We are the Community Media and Education Center serving Lowell, Massachusetts. And although our focus is primarily local, we also like to discuss issues of national and world importance. And I'm so pleased today to be welcoming some dignitaries from Africa. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce City Councilor Rita Mercier. She's a longtime councilor here in the city, and she's going to welcome you as well.
Thank you very much, Wendy. My name is Rita Mercier, and I'm very honored to be here as we welcome very special guests from Cameroon. As we have in 2002, when I was the mayor, we welcomed the King Agwalfo at that particular time. And then when City Councilor Bill Martin was the mayor, we honored him again. He honored us, I should say, with his presence when he came before the council again. And today we honor the dignitaries that are here. Thank you very much for being here. On behalf of the mayor, Bill Samaras, and my colleagues in government, I want to thank everybody for getting on board, and LTC for having this beautiful gathering so that we could talk about their country and the atrocities that are happening. I want to say that sometime in September of 2017, as a city councilor, I made a motion if we could form a resolution to say that we are against the human rights abuse that has taken place in Bamenda, because this is a terrible situation that's happening. Because when you stop and think of Lowell, you think of how rich we are, very, very rich, not in money, but in ethnic diversity, whereby we have about 62 countries represented here in the city of Lowell. And having said that, we like to showcase and honor many, many groups. And any group that will have us, we will be honored to put your sign and your flag and raise your flag aside of the flag of the United States. And we do that on about 21 occasions, and one of them is Cameroon. So in 2017, we did sign and pass a resolution which we gave to Fruc Nimbang to bring and give to the people of Cameroon, to say that we protest and we are against all the human rights abuse that has taken place with their people there. Our heart is broken when we saw the video of all the atrocities that are happening there. Oh, how can that be when Lowell is so free and so transparent and so rich in people and their culture, where they share their culture with us. So I'm honored to be here today to say a few words, which was a little bit more than few, but thank you so much for being here. Thank you for letting us be a part of it, and if we could stop this immediately, we would. But our heart is broken to know that this continues. So if any part that we can play to help you, I offer that to you on behalf of my colleagues. I know that I speak for them as well when I say whatever we can do to help you, we will. So thank you very much, Wendy. I'll hand it back to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, and now I'd like to introduce Fruc Kimbang. Mr. Kimbang is an LTC board member. He's the convener and producer of this program and other programs about the dire situation that's happening in his home country of Southern Cameroon, or Ambazonia. Fu is also an immigrant from Cameroon, and he is a very well-respected community activist here in the city. So, Fu?
Thank you very much, Wendy, and thank you, my favorite Councillor Rita Mercier. You work so hard for the Southern Cameroon. What you've done the world over is appreciative, and we thank God for you. My name is Fru Kimbeng. I was born in Mankon, Bamenda. Bamenda is a sister city with Lowell, and Lowell is the United Nation of cities. They open their arms wide to welcome us warmly, and that is manifested in so many things. And I would also thank Lowell Television on the board that I serve, which has become the window, our window to the world, carrying our images, our feelings around the world. We could not reach the voices and the minds around the world without LTC. I want to welcome our distinguished panel, Professor Carlson Anyangwe from South Africa. He's a seasoned Ambazonian. He has spoken, and he's very passionate about the Ambazonian struggle. Also, I would like also to welcome Barrister John Fuso from Cameroon. He is really from ground zero, and I hope that you pay great attention. They are the ones who will bring the emotions, the pains of our brothers and sisters who are paying with their blood, sweat. It is said that injustice somewhere, it is injustice everywhere. So it's my privilege now to welcome the person that I call Ambazonian passionate supporter, New Hampshire State Representative Mr. Dan Toomey. And Mr. Toomey has invested a lot to publicize the pain and the suffering of the people in the English Southern Cameroon, now soon to be the Republic of Ambazonia. Mr. Dan Toomey.
Hello. New Hampshire is a neighboring state we're in the state of Massachusetts, and it's only about 10 miles away from here. I'm in the legislature there, and I've been involved with the African community here in Lowell for many, many years, and actually we film the annual African Festival, which takes place here in Lowell every year. So I'm really concerned. I've been a close friend with Fru for many years, and I'm really concerned about what's going on in southern Cameroon. And so, I'm here today to lend my support, and I wish them well, and I hope that this video will reach more people in the United States so that they can be as concerned about it as I am. So I'm going to introduce Caroline Gallagher, who is our news director here. You need this?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Thank you, Dan. Welcome to the African Hour. And I'd like to introduce our two guests and give you a little bit about the background, their long backgrounds. To my left is Professor Carlson Anyangwe. He's a senior legal academic of many years standing. His struggle credentials go back many years. He's written extensively on the Ambazonian national struggle and is the author of several legal texts. His area of legal focus are public international law, international and regional human rights law, and criminal law and procedure. He served as the Executive Dean of Laws and Director at Walter Sisulu University in South Africa. Welcome.
Thank you.
To my right is Barrister Fru John So. He's an attorney at law. He was born in Mankon, Bamenda, in British Cameroon. He's educated in Cameroon and America. He holds a Bachelor of Art in Economics and a Juris Doctor of Law from Texas Southern University in Houston, Texas in 1984. Barrister Fru has been practicing law in the Douala, Cameroon for the last 30 years. And excuse me if I'm getting the names a little bit messed up. He's presently the lead defense counsel for acting president of Ambazonia, Sisiko Ayuk Tabe. On September 25th, in 2017, Mr. Sisiko Ayuk Tabe visited Lowell and was a guest here in the studio at LTC. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
On behalf of the citizens of Lowell, I would like to once again welcome you to our state and to our city. Before we begin the discussion about what's happening right now in Cameroon, would one of you be able to just give us a very brief history of the struggles that got us to where we are now?
Okay, I'll brief. What used to be called the British Southern Cameroon, the trust territory of the United Nations, administered by the UK government. It achieved self-government way back in 1954. And in 1961, part of the United Nations decolonization agenda was to ensure that colonial powers handed power to the colonized people that were granted them independence. In the case of the British Southern Cameroons, we had a situation where rather than hand independence over to the people, the United Nations and Great Britain came up with a theory that for them to achieve independence, they had to do so by joining either of its neighbors, Nigeria or French Cameroon. It was very bewildering to the people, and it was not acceptable, and they made it very clear. But this one rammed down their throat, and they were told they had to subject themselves to a plebiscite before 1962, and that they had to choose between joining Nigeria or joining French Cameroon. The plebiscite that was held in February, the result showed a preference for joining French Cameroon rather than Nigeria. But the term joining was clearly understood, agreed as between the Southern Cameroons and French Cameroon, that the word joining meant federating. And that was the understanding that was given to people when they went to the poll. And the second understanding was that French Cameroon made it very clear at the United Nations that it had no intention whatsoever of annexing the British Southern Cameroons if it opted to join them. And this was because there were a number of states that expressed anxiety at the United Nations about the possibility of French Cameroon annexing the British Cameroons. So no sooner had the plebiscite result been announced, the United Nations met in April 1961 and adopted Resolution 1608. And that resolution, the adoption of that resolution, curiously, French Cameroon voted against that resolution, cast a negative vote. And since then, everything has been one problem after another. And in September, on 1st of September, French Cameroon simply adopted what I would describe as an annexation document, in which it claimed that it was now recovering a part of its territory that had been handed over to it by Britain and the United Nations. Of course, it was all false. And to compound that situation, on the 1st of October, the date set by the United Nations for the British Southern Cameroon to achieve independence, what happened on that date was the British simply invited that foreign country to Ambazonia, and they, in their own words, transferred sovereignty to that foreign country. So the result, therefore, was recolonization and not decolonization as the United Nations had hoped. So, contrary to what many people do think, the termination of trusteeship on 1st of October and the departure of the British from the Southern Cameroons did not result in the freedom of the people of the Southern Cameroon, because French Cameroon simply took over the territory, moved in its troops, sent in the civil administrators, and they've been in occupation since today. And their policy has systematically been to assimilate these people, to destroy whatever heritage they've had from the British, who were their colonizers, the legal system destroyed, the educational system, the plundering and looting of the economic resources, with nothing whatsoever coming to the southern Cameroon. And these are the root causes of the particular problem. The fact that rather than decolonize its territory, the territory found itself being recolonized by a neighboring African country, what I describe as a black-on-black colonization. If that colonization had been white colonization, everybody would easily have seen it. But because it's a black country, colonization not black country, it has been hidden under the veil of a so-called African unity. So that is a problem, root cause. And what people saw in 2016 was only the end process of a process that people have lived over many years, many decades, have been protesting. Memoranda upon memoranda have been sent to the French Cameroon government. Protests have made. But at each protest, what happened was simply a question of suppression of the people. And so have a colonial situation, a typical colonial situation in the British Cameroon, oppression and plundering and spoliation of the natural resources and wealth of the people of the southern Cameroons.
And civil war.
And now, of course, since 2016, the end result, when the lawyers and the teachers and civil society organizations decided once more to indicate that the situation in which they find themselves, they will not accept oppression. The response from French Cameroon was to send in more soldiers and with orders to shoot and kill at will. And this is what they've been doing up to today. The people of the British Southern Cameroon were never prepared for any war, and that's why you find, as a matter of self-defense, the people picked up guns, catapults, we've seen them on the films, stones and sticks, fighting a well-trained army. Would have moved in with helicopter gunship, with tanks and all kinds of modern weapons you can see, fighting as defenseless people, who all they do is to defend themselves. And this has resulted in about, 500,000 refugees, over 500,000 internally displaced people, houses being burnt down, people being killed, one of the greatest atrocities in the contemporary period.
Okay, so and we have begun to see some of that activity from media reports. As people on the ground in the middle of the conflict, which you two are, what is happening right now? What's happening there? What does the conflict look like on the ground?
Thank you, ma'am. What is happening right now is what happened in 1984 in Rwanda. There's active genocide going on right now. Before I give you the graphic situation as what is happening on the ground now, I would like to tell you how it started. On the 22nd of September 2017, our people came out with peace plans to demonstrate. Now, Republic of Cameroon, there's a French Cameroon, opened fire on some of our people on that day. Nothing, we didn't fight back. On the 1st of October, our present president, who you have received here, Seseko Ayuktabe, you received him here. He declared, he restored our independence. And after that day, 1st of October, we lost 122 youths. They were gunned down. The French Cameroon was using helicopter gunships. They were using artillery. They used all the means they could, and 122 people were killed that day. The mass graves are still available in Boya. And then...
So that was about a year and a half ago?
Yes, that's about 2 years ago.
Okay.
The army moved in, and we're going from house to house, taking out our young people, shooting them on the legs, shooting and killing some, and so on and so forth, until the 30th of November, when the present president of French Cameroon, Paul Biya, on arrival from Côte d'Ivoire, declared war on our people on the 30th of September 2017. And as soon as he did that, he moved troops into Mafé and started killing our people. The young people said, no, we cannot wait until they kill all of us. So they decided to organize self-defense. It went on, it became a war. Now, what is happening? Our boys have been very efficient on the ground, and now The army, instead of pursuing our boys, they are pursuing the population. They are killing women, they are killing children, they are killing older people, they are killing even young people who are not into this conflict. They go from house to house, they remove children from the ages of 8, 10 to 16 and kill them because they want to eliminate the coming generation like our generation. And it is a genocide situation in the Cameroons. We have now lost more than 10,000 of our people. Not people carrying, I cannot say there are people carrying guns, but the civilians, the population, they have no difference between, they don't make a difference between who is carrying a gun, who is not. And they have burned down 215 villages in our country, Ambazonia, right now as I speak. And it is continuing. The latest one is coming from Kumbu. Kumbu is a city in the north of Cameroon, in the north of Ambazonia, in a division called Bui. They have destroyed that whole city. They have destroyed the villages around. They've killed. We cannot begin to tell you. The bishop of Kumbu has issued a statement saying that in 7 months, the Cameroon Army has killed 370 civilians in Kumbu, in the diocese of Kumbu alone. So that is what is happening. We are losing our population. I don't know whether it's a design, and we are very surprised that the United Nations is quiet. And after the 1994 genocide in Rwanda, they said, oh, never again. But never again is happening now, and everybody's quiet. The world is quiet, except for Laura. If you were not, if this city was not twain to our major city in Bamenda, and with the help of Fruit Bank, you have put this case to the American people, and the American people now know that there is a genocide going on, and that is why the U.S. Congress is talking now. Everybody is talking, but the United Nations is still quiet. I cannot understand that. But I want to tell you that we are hurt, all of us. We are hurt, and we are not free. You can be gunned down anytime, anywhere, if you show up in Ambazonia. They open fire on people's cars. They do whatever they have to do. If they suspect that you are not part of them, they just shoot you down. So that's what is happening now.
Would you like to add to that?
Yes, I just want to say personally, I'm a law professor, when I see the way the French Cameroon military is conducting this operation, I just cannot understand what their war aims are, or what their games are. They have been using rape as a weapon of war. The reason why they do that, is very humiliating. Not humiliating, not only to the women, but also to ourselves who come from that territory. It's a thing of shame for us. Second objective why they use that as a weapon, we have been reliably informed, is to infect as many women as they possibly can, because ultimately it will infect the population. Again, this is part of the genocide thing we're talking about, the intention to destroy a people.
Infect them with what?
Well, infect them with STDs, infect them with HIV, because many of these people they send there, we understand, are people who have that. So that is part of their design, to destroy a people. So I just can't understand. And if you see the way they go about doing things, massively destroying villages and cities, pulling people from their homes and just killing them. A policy of killing all male children. This is the Pharaonic kind of phenomenon. All male children from 8 years and above. Now, if this is not genocide, I don't understand what else this can be. And if this military that are operating the way, if they have received military training, if they understand what the Geneva Conventions are all about, I am astounded that she cannot behave in this particular way. And the political leadership in French Cameroon and the military heads, chiefs in French Cameroon that authorize are complicit in this kind of conduct. And I believe that as sooner or later, they will have to answer for this. They cannot claim that they don't know, starting from the president to all the military officers and the commanders who are down on the field supervising all of this kind of operation. It's something which is beyond human comprehension. I've never read any history book where a military ever conducted itself in this particular manner. That's one thing. The other thing I want to say is that we do know from reliable information that part of the strategy of the French Cameroon authorities is actually to drive away our people out of their territory and their own territory and actually neutralize that population eventually. The end game, of course, this war is a resource war. Why are they fighting it? Get over the territory, get over the oil, get over the minerals, get over the agricultural produce, which comes from Ambazonia. That is the thing. And hiding behind French Cameroon is France itself, that has boots on the ground, that has military advisors in the Ministry of Defense, that has military advisors in the presidency of that country. We know all of this, and that is using Chadian mercenaries to fight on their behalf. This is a terrible situation. You have a people who are armless. They have no arms and so on, facing the might of French Cameroon, combined with French army, plus the surrogate of France, for example, Chadian soldiers who are there. So this is the kind of situation our people are facing. But I can assure you, quoted from one other war strategist who said, well, there are about 8 million Ambazonians. Well, let us concede that they kill about another 4 million. We shall still have another 4 million Ambazonians left to ensure that there's victory at the end.
To add,
Yes.
they had developed a policy from the beginning to ensure that they intimidate, they get most of our intellectuals as much as possible into prisons. On the 5th of January, they connived with the Nigerian government, captured our leaders of Nigeria, detained them in Nigeria for 20 days, threw them in a military aircraft like cargo, and flew them to the capital city of French Cameroon in Yaoundé. They are now languishing in jails, and those are the people I defend. I'm leading a team of more than 100 lawyers. We are now defending our leaders, not only our leaders. We have Ambazonians, more than 2,500 in jails, mostly in French Cameroon jails. Since French Cameroon jails are filling up, they have now decided to be putting some of them in jails that they run in Ambazonia. We have more than 450 in Boya and more than 400 in Bamenda. But the bulk of those people that they are detaining are in French Cameroon, particularly in the 2 major prisons in Yaoundé, the central prison and the principal prison, where our leader is being held. And this is intended to make sure that they break us as much as possible. And we are fighting back. We are fighting back because the lawyers that we have put together, we will make sure that our leaders are not arraigned in the leaders who were taken from a foreign country in violation of international law, the Convention for the Protection of Refugees, which was promulgated in 1951 and ratified by Cameroon in 1961, was blatantly violated by both Nigeria and Cameroon by ferrying our people from Nigeria who were already refugees and asylum seekers. They flew them into Nigerian prison and into Cameroon prisons, and we have decided that they will not be arraigned. We will have to go through that law where we have about 3 or 4 objections, liminalities, that we have put forth to ensure that they don't open that trial. And that's where we are. They have already done more than 14, 15 months in jail, our leaders. Our people are in jails all over the country, especially Yaoundé, Douala, and Bafoussam. So that is where we are. And not only that, today, I can tell you that we have they have killed more than 10,000, going to 12,000 of our citizens. That is if you don't call that genocide, what do you call it? They are targeting young children, like the professor said, from 8 to about 18. If you are on the street or you are at home, you are not safe. Even at home, the secrecy of every human being is home. If you are at home, you are not safe. So they go in and they take them out and shoot them and kill them. And if you are lucky they are not killed, they disable you.
Okay, let me just add to those statistics.
Okay.
You say, Barrister talk of 10,000 killed. Of course, these statistics,
About 12,000.
yeah, they're conservative, isn't it?
Yes, very conservative.
We know that they are much more higher than that. They are much more higher than that. They seem like for refugees, they seem like IDPs are much more higher than that. I just want to add that you hear people say that the leaders, our president was extradited from Nigeria. There's no such thing. It's a big lie. There's no such thing. You don't extradite people by going gangster-like or terrorist-like, which is what French Cameroon did.
You must go through
Extradition is a process.
Judicial process.
We're talking, yes, of surrender through a process that has been handed over. So, when you hear people say that, sometimes I say, well, perhaps because they don't know the legal nuance in all of this and all of this. So there was no such thing like extradition. These people, our leaders, were held incommunicado in Nigeria for 20 days, they said, and then for how many months in
11 months,
Cameroon? 11 months
Underground.
incommunicado. I just want to say that outside here, when you hear people are in jail, where I think of American jail kind of, there's no such thing.
No.
You need to see where these people, life-threatening, they're sleeping on the ground. And there's a bucket by the side, in the room, small room like this, well, how many people are massed there? And that's what they call jail. That's the kind of condition under which they live. It's not a jail at all. This is a concentration camp. It is worse than a concentration camp.
Well, some of the people that you're speaking about were here in Lowell in September 2017. Siseko Ayuk-Tabe, he's the interim president of British Cameroons, and we welcomed him here to the city, and he was here in this studio. He was among those that were abducted in Nigeria and taken to Cameroon. And so specifically, how are they doing, the people that were here?
Yes, I can report that they are doing well, given the circumstances. The first time we met them, three lawyers met them, we had to do everything to meet them. And they will stop at nothing to stop us from meeting them. And when we finally met them, they came out white because they had not seen the sun for 11 months. They had been detained underground for 11 months.
Yeah.
So when we saw them, we immediately filed what you call a habeas corpus writ to have them released because they were detained illegally. And it is that procedure that we initiated that forced the door open. And when they saw the way we were going, they knew that the world would soon know what is happening. Because we actually brought them, because habeas corpus means bringing the body to show cause why they should not be released. So the first time in court, the High Court, they refused to bring them. So the second time in the Court of Appeal, I had to publish the warrant, the production warrant that was supposed to produce them. And when they saw it on social media, they hurriedly brought them to court. And that is the first time they came out to see light. And when they came out, the government panicked. And when they panicked, they now decided to charge them to a military court. It's not the ordinary court, military court, and then transfer them to the open prison where they now have a little bit of liberty, but you cannot talk of liberty while you're in prison because, like the professor described, the conditions are not any different. So they are doing well given the circumstances. And Siseko Ayuk-Tabe, our president, sends his greetings to the city of Lowell because they knew that I was going to come here. And they said that I should carry their warm greetings to this lovely city, and that this city will never get out of the memory of all those who will finally rule Ambazonia.
Well, please send those greetings right back to him. Can we talk about the push for independence of British Cameroon? Yes. From the perspective of the British Cameroonians, known as the Republic of Ambazonia, there are three actors or three stakeholders in this push for independence. So you have the British Cameroonians on ground zero, who are bearing the brunt of the killings, British Cameroonians in the diaspora around the world, who are playing a supportive role, British Cameroonian lawmakers who are currently serving in the National Parliament. Can you each elaborate on the role that each of these stakeholders are playing, and how well do you think they're doing, and what do they need to do further?
First, our fighting forces, for lack of a better word, because forces, they are not trained, they have no arms, they have nothing, just using basic rudiment. The best they have is some den guns, hunting rifles, that's all. I think they've surprised the enemy. The enemy had talked about a walkover within a matter of days. More than 2 years, the enemy has not been able to make any inroad. This is just sheer bravery on the part of these boys, on the part of our fighters, whom, as I keep on saying, have no military training whatsoever. They have no weapons whatsoever. And that is the situation when you attack somebody in his house. He has to defend himself, exercising the right of self-defense. And the enemy has no reason for being where they are. They have no reason for fighting where they are trying to fight. I don't think they have any motivation. They don't have, and they ought not to have. So the boys are holding their own very, very well. And I say boys loosely because the fighters are both girls and boys who are fighting. Many people don't talk about the women, yes, but the women fighters are there. Yes, and some of them are commanders. Only later on, I think after independence, people are going to see some of the ladies that are going to come out, and the world will be very, very surprised. So they're doing very well, and I've held out for 2 years with actually nothing. As for the second group, the diaspora has been very, very instrumental, not only providing material support in terms of humanitarian support, in terms of trying to provide clothing for the fighter, in terms of trying to see how much medicine or food can be given to the fighters. And they have been of tremendous moral support, and also internationalizing the situation in which we found ourselves and this conflict. So they have a very critical role to play, and they continue to play that role. And they vow that this role will continue so long as the colonial oppressor and occupier continues to be in Ambazonia. So they are doing extremely well, to my estimation. The last group, of course, is that of the parliamentarians. This is one of the tragedies we have, that we have Ambazonia who turn collaborators, collaborating with the enemy, fighting against their own people. We had expected that given the dire situation, and they would said, no, we refuse to be co-opted in the colonial system and therefore change. But they haven't. We've had a number, 1 or 2 cases of who have stood out, even in their own parliament there in French Cameroon, and told them that what they're doing is wrong, and that there's no way they're going to defeat Ambazonia. And this has had tremendous echo outside. But of course, the policy of French Cameroon is to say what is happening is happening in a foreign land, and that issue cannot be discussed in their parliament.
And
yes,
our people left Nigeria during the period of colonization, when the British attached us to Nigeria, and Nigeria was now governing us. It came a time in 1953, our people walked out of Nigeria. There was no gun, there was no shooting, nothing. Peacefully came back and established our own self-governing process in Boya, and there was no problem. Today, Ambazonians who are lawmakers in La République, in the French Cameroon, because of the goodies, because of the money they get, because of the fear of tomorrow, and because of the privileges that the colonizer has given them to make sure that they don't look back on their people. Only one stood out, and that's the parliamentarian who launched this fight in their parliament. His name is Honorable Joseph Weber. He launched this fight on their own in that parliament and walked away from that parliament. He now lives in London in exile, but still considered a member of that parliament, but he has resigned from there. Our people, they are not many in number. I don't think they are up to 30 or 40 of them in that parliament. But majority of them live now in Yaoundé. They've abandoned their constituencies because they cannot go back there. You cannot go back to face the people that sent you there, and they don't want you anymore there, and you are insisting to stay there. And you go back, you meet problems. So they all now live in the capital city. Nobody's returning. Even one who just died recently.
Yes.
I don't know how he's going to, how the body is going to be buried.
Buried in Yaoundé.
Yes.
I just want to, just 30 seconds to emphasize the point which Barrister made about our exiting from Nigeria. And that shows the difference of cultures, of civilizations. Here we are, the British administered the British Cameroon as an integral part of Nigeria. But we kept telling the British that we're not Nigerians. I don't intend to be Nigerians. And when the time came, our people said we're leaving, we're exiting Nigeria. Nigeria did not go to take guns to fight us.
No.
They said, no, that's a democratic process. That is what you want. Go ahead. Here we are with the people of a completely different culture, where their first language is violence and nothing else. So, if it were, I've always said this, if we're confronting an English-speaking country, this special not for a reason. They would have said, we'll respect our views. You want to stay on your own, fine, we'll respect our views. After all, it was not by gun that the federation took place with French Cameroon. So this is very important for people to always think of. Two different cultures here, two different peoples, two different territories that are clashing here. And the example of parliamentarian is a typical situation where you find people living in Nigeria peacefully, Nigeria not lifting a finger, and here we have finding people who are virtually holding us hostage, as it were.
And to add, our people are fighting to defend their homeland. We have not crossed 1 inch of the colonial boundaries between us and French Cameroon. It's French Cameroon that has moved troops into our territory and invaded our territory. They are fighting and killing our people, and we are defending. So when I hear some people say, oh, there's violence on both sides, how can you, somebody enters your house to kill you and you defend yourself, and while they are charging him for war crime, they also want to charge you for defending yourself? It's never heard in the Western world or in the world in general, except in the French world, in the mentality of the French world. I don't understand it. People are fighting for self-defense. And some people sit somewhere and say, oh, the atrocities are on both sides. How can you be defending and committing at the same time an atrocity when somebody with his guns, with a trained army, they call themselves professional army, helicopter gunships, rocket launchers, every weapon, modern weapon in this world is being used on Ambazonia. And yet, some people say atrocities have been committed on both sides. I want the American people and the world in particular to know that we have not crossed 1 inch of our territory, and we are defending only our territory.
My list of questions here is from Ambazonians all over the world. So, Barrister Fru So, you were born in Bamenda. In 2002, Fru Kembang, who we met earlier at the beginning of the show, he helped to establish Lowell as a sister city to Bamenda. Do you or your fellow citizens of Bamenda have any message for Lowell?
Oh yes, we have a very important message for Lowell. Lowell has brought Bamenda into the limelight. Bamenda now, everybody in Bamenda talks about Lowell. Lowell is not only supporting Ambazonia, but they are supporting the city of Bamenda. I want to inform you, the citizens of Lower, that Bamenda is even though a war zone, is still hanging on. Thanks to Lower.
Great. Professor Anyangwe, as one who has looked at for ideas and solutions for this crisis, what are you doing to create international awareness, and what do you see as the way out of this?
The first strand of activism is, of course, to try to get the world to understand the situation which we are in, where we come from, and where we are going to. And part of that, in trying to conscientize the world, has been putting pen on paper, writing about our situation, and trying to get people to read about it, so that people to understand us. That task, I think, I can say now that in many respects has been achieved, because the Ambazonian situation now is generally known, although maybe sometimes nitty-gritty is still very blurred in people's mind, and so on. But by and large, people have begun to understand and they've understood. The second thing is internationalizing what is happening now on the ground and what it is that we need to do. And in that, I've been engaged in many activities with many state and non-state actors to explore ways and means of ensuring that this whole nightmare comes to an end. One of the things I have been very particular about is to ensure that, because I do understand, international processes are rather too slow, rather slow. And so for my immediate concern is to ensure that we act speedily, engage the United Nations, engage other cooperating entities, whether states or non-state actors, so that we can have either United Nations Security authorize what I call protective humanitarian intervention, or for the United Nations to authorize a state to engage in that. What I mean by this is like an umbrella. Right now, the atrocities that are being committed on a daily basis are unbearable. We need the United Nations to send peacekeepers, disengage the parties, French Cameroon forces to leave the territory and the administration, secure the area. That will then enable the close to 1 million IDPs to start coming out of forests, coming out down from the hills, from the caves, and trying to make a semblance of living. That will also enable the more than 500,000 refugees that are in different countries to start coming back. That will enable the United Nations humanitarian agencies to put at least temporary accommodation, even if it's tent, because although they'll be coming back, the IDPs and the refugees, there'll be nowhere to go to. Their homes and everything will be burned down. So you need the United Nations and other humanitarian agencies to come in, have this temporary construction put in place. These people can begin to make a semblance of life. But while this is going on, in parallel with this, the territory would have to be administered. And I foresee that the United Nations would have to take a temporary administration of Ambazonia. And the reason for that, of course, is to ensure that other due processes, people have been talking about having talks, engaging in talks with French Cameroon, to discuss issues on how things that have accumulated over the years, how they're going to be divided and so on and so forth. But those are processes that take place a long time, you know. So for me, in the immediate, I see that as to avert this humanitarian situation, which the UN itself has calculated that about 4 million people are at risk as we speak in the next few months. So to avert that intervention is necessary. And I think that's the primary thing we need to see. And then temporary administration of the territory. Then other processes like constitutional thing, people voting, people have talked about referendum, and so on, can organize the referendum. But these are slow processes. That's how I foresee it. And that has been my thrust and my thinking and my effort, which I try to share with state and non-state actors that I come across.
And me coming from what I call ground zero from Ambazonia, I don't think anything will take place without a ceasefire. Because the level of fire, the level of killings is so high that if we don't stop the killings first, and immediately, as we speak, by the time anything is happening like the professor has just indicated, they would have wiped out almost more than 20, 30,000 of our people. So immediate ceasefire for anything else to take place. And right now, the French Cameroon is not interested in any ceasefire. It's only the United Nations that can bring that to bear. I don't know how to do it, by peacekeeping force or by intervention force or whatever. But the immediate thing now we want is cessation of hostility, so that humanitarian activities can happen. Right now, as I speak, you cannot carry out any humanitarian activity in Ambazonia because of the level of fire, the firepower.
Knowing what we know about dictators around the world and what you describe as the ruthless regime taking place in French Cameroon, how safe do you feel, and the legal team that is working with the detained leaders, how safe do you personally feel?
We are not safe. Even me as I speak. As I'm going back, I'm just taking the risk. When it happens, it happens. We are not safe. They follow us all over. They take pictures of our houses. They take pictures of our cars as we come and go. But some of them, their surrogates have even attempted to capture some of our lawyers and catch them to pay ransom. And we are not safe, to tell you the truth. But as I speak, I will be going back. I will be going back because I have given up my professional life to defend our people who are in jail. I cannot stay more than 15 days in this country while our people have, the trial is coming up again on the 8th. I took upon myself to ask for an adjournment before getting here. Now, it will maybe adjourned in May, and I must be back to prepare for the trial with my colleagues. And they are on the ground now, and they are working very hard. And I cannot wait to join them. But we are not safe anywhere in La République du Cameroon or in Ambazonia.
Yeah, I think there's nothing that's off the table on the regime we were described, which is a despotic regime. This is a regime that's on record, has killed so many priests, so many bishops, there's nothing which is off limit for them. And so anybody in that environment knows that you're living just from hour to hour, and anything can happen. So I think these learned colleagues, they're putting their life literally on the line. But I think they have to do what they have to do. And I'm sure they're very much aware that it is very, very possible, very probable that they might be killed. And if that were to happen, I would say, God forbid, I would not be very surprised at all. There are no respecters of persons. Doesn't matter who you are. There are no respecters of persons. People go around shooting and killing men of God. They will stop at nothing.
You mentioned using rape as a weapon of war, burning down hospitals, destroying educational institutions, and targeting young men for extermination. What do you think are the long-term consequences for Southern Cameroon?
I think the more you think about that, the more one realizes the enormity of what is happening there. So quite apart from the immediate death which you see, the contamination you see about the infection, you will see that much more later. That will manifest itself later.
Yes.
It's going to affect the population. We are going to have a population imbalance because you are targeting the young people and killing them and so on. So you're going to find a situation where socially you're going to find there are more women than men, and it creates an imbalance. We are already beginning to see examples of this social imbalance. Before, in our culture, men are the ones who dig the graves to bury the deceased and so on.
Women are now digging.
Roles have now changed because the men have been shot and been killed. The women are the ones digging the graves, touching dead bodies and burying them. This is something which is unheard of. So the long-term consequences do not even end there. The fact that we have boys and girls in the fighting, and the fact that these young men are being targeted, there will be a generation that will have no education. And that's going to have long-term repercussions. So we can talk about this maybe subsequently, but the consequences are enormous. I don't want to talk about the destruction, because we'll start building literally from scratch. There's nothing that we have. Nothing. Not even a 1 kilometer of road or anything.
We just have a few minutes left. Would you like to add to that?
And to add to that, I have one case study. There are so many of our women in jail, but as a consensus rate, a young lady came from Kumbu. He's now in central prison in Yaoundé. She was beaten by the military because they came for her husband, they didn't find her husband. About 5 of them raped her seriously all night, and then carried her and dumped her in a vehicle and brought her to Yaoundé. She gave me a vivid account of what happened. She committed no offense except that she was married to somebody whom they suspect has guns. And this young lady is languishing in prison, having been raped. The psychological impact of rape. I don't need to explain that to our viewing public. Most women have been traumatized by this phenomenon of rape. And I don't know what is going to happen to our society, but we will need counseling for these women. We need psychiatric help for most of these women when this hostility must have stopped. We don't know when that will be, but that is what we're living with.
Well, we've got just about a minute left. Any final words from you before we
My final word is that we need this UN intervention very, very fast, because the IDPs who are out there, the disease explosion that's going to explode, I can't imagine how it's going to be. People are living in the forest with no clean water, nothing, exposed to mosquitoes, exposed to all kinds of... The disease burden is going to be enormous. Added to educational one I've talked about, added to a cultural one, added to infrastructure destruction that has happened. And I think there's a situation of urgency now in that particular context.
And how about you? Any final words, Barrister?
Except that I want the world to know that what happened in 1994 in Rwanda is repeating itself in Ambazonia, and the world is watching. We call on the United Nations, especially the African Union, to react. You will not believe that in all this, the African Union has been quiet.
Well, it's a very important discussion. It needs to be continued, but that's all we have for today. So from Lowell, LTC Lowell, we say hello to our sister city in Bamenda, and we wish you the best of luck in your continued efforts for independence and for ceasefire. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
much. A pleasure.
much.